Adam, if you bring on a new executive for your company and the executive insists on being an independent contractor, but you weren't prepared for that, what do you do?
That's a good question, and it does come up a lot. And you see a lot of individuals that want the benefits of being an independent contractor because they take home more money on the front end. They can sort of defer their tax obligation to the back end. It suits them in the moment. Okay, but that worker preference is not a legal defense to complying with employment laws. And employment laws are written for W-2 employees. So as an employer, you have to understand that you will bear some risk and probably a high level of risk if this is an executive, because this is presumably someone who's going to be spending a significant amount of time with the organization, probably going to be treated like a normal employee, and it's probably going to be misclassified. Okay. And what does that mean? That means that the government, i.e., the IRS, the Department of Labor, the local agencies, they can all find that there is worker misclassification and they can penalize your business. And in some instances, the penalties can be very, very harsh. So I tell companies that worker preference is not a legal defense. It's a consideration because maybe you are interested in bringing the individual on, but you really, really should push towards making the arrangement W-2, because now there's a set of rules that you can follow for W-2, i.e., the employment and labor laws. Whereas for independent contractors, there are no rules, and you're essentially outside of the rules. So it comes with a high degree of risk.
So you want, I mean, so it sounds like it doesn't matter what that person wants, you've got to classify it based on whether or not they actually are an employee. How does it play into the equation when they have their own company and you're engaged in their own company?
So that helps. If an individual is incorporated, it shows that, they're in business and in business for themselves. So that's a factor maybe weighing in favor of them being an independent contractor. But we need to start looking at some of the other factors, like, is this business also doing things for other companies, or is it economically dependent on this new employer?
Got it. Okay.
Who's in control here? Is the employer in control? How often is the worker slash new company going to be working for this new company? You know, is this individual slash company going to be bringing their own tools to perform the job, or is that going to be provided by the company? You start looking at some of these other factors, and if the majority of the factors lead to it being an employment relationship, well, then that tells you your answer. But even if the minority of factors lead to it being a W-2 employer, you still have risk,
Right.
because there's a lot of incentive for private business, for government to find W-2 arrangements. Okay. And one thing to also keep in mind, if the arrangement no longer works, well, that worker may pursue something that suits that worker in that moment, which could be under the W-2 laws. So another thing to keep in mind, most people that work with me know that I'm very, very strict about this in terms of wanting to make the W-2 arrangement work and more viable, because I can then guide the company on the laws, and understanding that the independent contractor model comes with a high degree of risk. So there's things we can do about it to minimize the risk, but there's always going to be that risk.